Broad Street Review Podcast, Philly's online hub for arts, culture, and commentary, where art and ideas meet. I am your host, Darnell Radford. Today on the podcast, I meet with the team behind Going Viral Festival, a response to the situation we are currently in. As we have seen many times over, artists have risen to this moment to let their creativity take center stage. So here is my interview with the team behind Going Viral Festival. Why don't we just go around and have everybody tell us who they are?
Yeah, I'm Eleanor Safer, and I'm the producing manager of Maladjusted and Going Viral. And I use she, her pronouns.
And I'm Paige Zubel. I also use she, her pronouns. I'm the producing playwright of Maladjusted and the Going Viral Festival.
And my name is Shamus Hunter McCarty, he, him, and I am the producing director of Maladjusted and the Going Viral Festival.
Welcome to Rep Radio.
Thank you.
Radford, I use he, him pronouns. So I'm asking everyone, where were you when the shutdown was announced? Like, where were you in your, in the work that you do? Like, what was the situation when you found out, oh, we're shutting everything down? Everything I had planned for the next couple of weeks, month or so was shutting down.
I was in Indiana. I was supposed to be doing a show in Indiana. We were in our last week of rehearsal before tech. It was a really good show. It was sad. And I had actually that morning, I was staying in like theater housing, and that morning somebody had broken into our house and stolen my hummus. So it was like a whirlwind morning, and the producers all came over to like make sure we were okay and fix the window that had broken. And I was living with one of the actors, and he said to the producer and the director, they were doing both, you know, if this is like the thing that goes wrong today, that's way better than our show getting canceled. And it was still early in the morning, so I went back to sleep, and I woke up at around 10 because the director called me to tell me that the show was being canceled. And I was like, well, that was the thing we said we didn't want if we had a break-in.
Oh.
So that was a wild day for me.
Was it a hard time? And where are you now?
I'm back in Philly.
Okay. Was it a hard time getting back here?
No, it wasn't. No, because airports are still functioning, I think, right now, actually. So it was, my brother had a freak out and was like, you can't be on a plane. You're going to be too close to people. If you have to be on a plane, then we have to put you in first class. And I was like, that seems a lot of extra. I've never ridden in first class on purpose. Why are we doing this? But he was really stressed, and my dad was really stressed. And so we did it. And I was one of 8 people on the plane. So
Wow.
It was not scary to be on a plane.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, I had just gotten into grad school, was like my last like big thing. So I had just the week, I guess, yeah, like a week or two before like the city of Philadelphia shut down, I had done my final like round of interviews a couple of places. I had just come from like a bunch of traveling, and accepted an offer, and then, you know, everything ended a week later. Like, but I was not like mid deep any projects, which I was very grateful for, you know, because I was doing the grad school process. It meant that I didn't have like a very current show that, like, you know, like Eleanor's got to tech, and then, you know.
Yeah.
I know for me, I started off 2020. I spent a month off the grid to just kind of clear my head a little bit. And I came back and I was staying in temporary housing. with the intention of like finding a new place to live, kind of get like a fresh start for the decade, and then the country shut down instead. So I was in an Airbnb for like a minute. And I'm now in my new home. I've now moved in and I found a new place and all that. But the housing situation for me was a little wonky amid quarantine. And I know when Philly announced, official stay-at-home order, Elle and I were actually already in the process of making the Going Viral Festival happen. Because Elle had called me, 3 days prior?
I had called while I was still in Indiana. Like, I had figured out my flight home, and then I was like, fuck this, and I called Paige.
Yeah, so Elle called me like very, very close to the official stay-at-home, shelter-at-home, and was like, Broadway's canceled, let's make some art, let's do bite-sized theater. And so we had this plan of like requesting very short plays with very small casts that we would film in my living room. Like, this is when the stay-at-home order was like, just don't gather in groups of 10 or more. So we're like, we'll just get really bitty. Like, Shamus came on as the director. We're like, okay, maybe like the director Skypes in. Like, how can we make this as small as possible? And then the official stay-at-home, like, don't gather in groups at all happened. And that's why we moved to the platform that we're doing now. So that was also a wrinkle in that.
Huh. So the Going Viral Festival, is it a response to this, or kind of it was sort of in the works? It is a response.
Yeah. So, sorry, go ahead, Shamus.
Oh, I was gonna say, I think the timeline that Paige was speaking to, I think was just that it was like it was like while the world was shutting down, whether or not it was official, like that Philly had set it shut down.
Yeah.
So I was in Indiana freaking out about like my tech has been canceled and like my job has been canceled and I have to go home, and like this was not the plan. And I was really upset that this, like, we had just done a reading of our show for board members instead of for a performance for an audience. And there had been, those moments in theater when you watch it happen and you're like, that's why I do this. That moment right there where the magic happened. We had that in our reading. And I was actually crying in our final rehearsal reading. And I think I texted Paige. And I was like, something has to be made. We have to do a thing. And the thing we thought was going to be able to be like people in a room together. But then the order was changed from don't gather in groups of 10 to don't do a thing, stay home. And we were like, cool, what's the new plan?
Yeah. So what is the new plan?
So the new plan for us then became the Going Viral Festival as we have done it since. So that original week was one director, right, a handful of playwrights, and a series of like rep actors that did a variety of roles. And so then since then we expanded a lot. I think that something that we all identified about what was important to us about this was not necessarily making the next great pieces of theater, but to remind people that it's still possible and that they can still be creative and that there are still outlets for the people that want them in this time. I think that there's a definite divide is the wrong word because I don't think anyone's like fighting about it yet, but I think that there is definitely a bifurcation of thought as to whether or not anything is useful right now. And I think that kind of the point of view for all of us was the idea of like spirit and community are as valuable in this time in like pursuit of and joy of a form as getting back to, or at least, trying to replicate what has been before. So we moved to this model that was very inclusive, or tried to be more expansive with the amount of artists we could include. We've since added designers, which has been super cool, and formulated our like real process, which is that we gather midday with all of the artists and then pretty much set them off to work. Designers have usually created some stuff before that initial day, but then the director works with the actors in their various spaces and coordinates with Eleanor as our, the in-room stage manager, for lack of a better word. I don't know if we ever came up with a different term for that, but it's, production manager, Zoom manager. And so that's the process that's kind of taken us to where we are now. And then from there, we just decided to like riff on it. So we have a week coming up that's all student playwrights from Philadelphia Young Playwrights Resident Playwriting Program. I think because as we recognize community, it's, it grows and it's about more than us and what we're feeling and trying to create space for people, I think, is what got me excited about it. When Eleanor and Paige and I went from doing the initial proposal to like, all right, if we're going to commit to doing something, let's make sure it's something that feels important and useful.
Yeah. I feel like the young artists that make up our theater communities probably have already embraced some of this technology anyway. In terms of like how do you communicate when you're across country doing the thing? How do you keep in touch with your family and friends back home, or if your work actually gets you out of your hometown, how do you manage to stay in touch with everything that's going on? But I feel like there are some traditional theater audiences who are not accustomed to this kind of offering. What has been your experience in terms of like the participants? I don't know if it's the participants, but the people attending. Have you heard from people who have attended the festival, and what have been some of the responses?
Well, was it your dad, Paige, that got a really lovely response?
Yeah, so one of the things that we've been doing in addition to these live streams is we started a weekly episodic show, which we're building it as like a choose your own adventure play in which the audience tells us what they want to see next, and that determines the plot of the show. And that's every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And my parents, I'm writing the show, so my parents of course make sure to tune in, and they keep saying like, for context, my parents work in the oil and gas industry, and they're the most supportive people in the world. And they go to shows when I am involved in them, and that's largely it. And my dad especially, he's like, I respect what you do, but theater's not really my thing. And then on the phone a couple of weeks ago, he was like, I'm really looking forward to the next episode. Like, I've got it on my calendar. Like, I want to tune in. It's 10 minutes of the day, but it's something to look forward to, and I can participate in, and it's not too much. It's not asking for a lot of time. And I feel like we've had a lot of consistent responses like that, like intentionally in keeping our daily offerings really short and sweet. People feel like it's something that they can engage with fully for the time that we run, and they still have the rest of their evening to do what they'd like with. And by having a lot of like familiar faces in it, by trying to tap into as much of the Philly theater community as possible, it's a way for people to be like, oh, my friend is doing some work. How can I support them in a way that doesn't use too many spoons in this environment?
Yeah. It's so much easier to like sit in your living room and watch a 10-minute thing than it is to like go out to someone's hour-long improv show. It's much harder for your friends to say, no, I don't want to see your theater piece. I don't have time. Like, yes, you do.
Yeah. I was thinking about that, how if going out to support one of your friends meant figuring out if you're gonna make dinner early or make it ahead of time or go get something to eat before you head over to the space that it was performed in, and then going to do it, it may be something that you might not be able to attend. You might not be able to participate because of everything else that normally runs your day. But being able to tune in here when we are sort of sheltering in place, it is kind of fun, like your father said, to just have a calendar event. I can't. I'm going to be in a 10-minute. I'll be over.
Yeah.
I'll be over here.
Yeah, I think
but walk away with these snippets of art. I think it's great. What were you going to say, Shamus?
Oh, just, yeah, I totally agree. Just to echo that, I think, it's like reminding people that you can have a pop of joy or escape, and it doesn't mean that you are ignoring the problems of society or that you are bad or wrong, I think that, and so that's, I think, a really important thing that we've kind of talked about is like, if we can give people 10 minutes of something else, what a gift.
Did you need any time to think about whether it's insensitive or not to not think about what's going on right now? Like, I feel like sometimes it's hard to just sort of walk around as if none of this is happening, but at the same time, life has to go on. In theater, the show must go on. So we just continue to produce, and it is an escape in general. So it's not like every single show is what's on the front page of the paper. But does the topic of the day enter into the work at all?
Yeah, I think that that's a question that theater makers get asked whether or not we're in the middle of a pandemic, right? Like, is now the time to be putting on this comedy, or should we be talking about the state of our government? And I've always been a big supporter of, like, now is always the time to put on the comedy, because art for art's sake should be allowed to exist. Giving people an hour and a half to, like, laugh and smile when situations are hard is really important and is really useful and is a direct response to the world around us, even if it's not about the world around us, because people need that. But also, I don't think other careers get asked that, right? Like, a banker continues to be a banker even in the state of the world, and nobody's like, well, are you worried that your banking is not a good response to this pandemic? And it's like, oh, we need bankers, so there are bankers. We need theater makers, so there have to be theater makers.
I think there's also the assumption that not everyone, right? For me, it's very easy to assume that people are experiencing something in the same way that I am, right? And so mine looks like this. But the reality is, like, we can be serving people who literally's entire life is the COVID crisis right now, medical workers, right? I think we absolutely should be doing things to create moments and opportunities for escape for people who don't get to create, like, distance in some way. I'm very lucky to have, like, Netflix time during my day while other people are on the front lines of, like, dealing with the crisis. So I don't know. I think personally that absolutely 100% it is essential that we create spaces that are not inherently about the current subject, because there's plenty of spaces for that.
I mean, I also think theater making right now is in such a unique position that everything we're doing is inherently in response to this circumstance, just because of the platform we have to use. So if the content isn't addressing what's happening in the world right now, I would argue that every theater maker who's been making work in self-isolation has been responding to this in some way, shape, or form. Which, I mean, I don't really have a follow-up to that. I just think we are.
I think you're right, Paige. Yeah, you ultimately can't remove the two.
Yeah,
you're right. A playwright says, "Well, I was sitting in front of my computer in a quiet space anyway." So I don't know how much of this has really changed. I think the only thing that really changed for me is I do have a day job. I work in technology, and I immediately had to figure out how I had been saying it for the longest time. I can do this from anywhere. But then I had to actually prove it that I could do it from anywhere. So I think the only thing that really changed for me was thinking, I did have a home office already, but did it have enough lighting? And then I got in my head, because I come from production, and I was thinking of, like, do I have sort of 3-point lighting? Like, you can't really see it. I do have lighting all over the place. I was thinking of things like that in terms of how to have these meetings and not feel too unengaged, because there's a lot of this that's out of the shot, and you could be doing anything else. And I think that's the fear of a lot of businesses, where they feel like potentially these remote meetings are not having people fully engaged. And I guess it's also a concern. I don't know that it would be a concern for art. It's like, if you were going to tune into the art, you would tune in. This wouldn't be, I don't think I would, at least it's me, I wouldn't tune into a piece of art and then do something else at the same time. I'm in the mindset of escaping into the work. So I think I could escape into the work in a virtual space, just as I would in a theater with the lights down and and our cell phones silenced.
Well, and that was a conversation I don't know if you've been tuning in at all. The National Theatre in England has been releasing archival footage every Thursday of a different play. So I think right now they have Anthony and Cleopatra out, and every Thursday they change it to something else. And my roommate and I didn't enjoy Anthony and Cleopatra, so we ended up actually turning it off early. And it was the first one of, we've been watching them every Thursday. It was the first one that we were like, great, we're walking out of this one. And we had a conversation about like, it is becoming very easy in our home space to turn off theater. Something that like, we would never do in real life. If we were in a theater, we would have sat through that production and not even left at intermission. We would have watched the whole thing because we had paid for our tickets and we didn't want the actors to see, like, that's just us. And I think that it's okay in response to a crisis when we're sitting at home if we don't have the attention span to fully only tune into the art. I think it's okay if somebody's twiddling on their phone, because the reason that we don't like that in live theater spaces is because it's distracting to the people around you and it's distracting to the actors and it's disrespectful. And there's nobody when you're watching on a television that you're being disrespectful to, is the truth. And yeah, I think specifically when we are making art in response to this crisis, we have to consider that like people's mental health comes first. And if their mental health requires them to tune out early, if their mental health requires them to do something else at the same time, to have a conversation, to be able to like shout and respond, to be able to stand up and run across the room and say, oh my God, that was the most absurd thing I've ever seen on TV, then they should be able to do those things. And it doesn't bother us, it doesn't bother me at all.
Well,
I can't speak for everyone.
Sorry. I think that also kind of dovetails with conversations that we've had, not regarding people viewing our live streams, but people who are actually participating in the making of it. We said a phrase at one point, I don't remember what it was, but it was something like you get a quarantine pass or something like that.
Oh yeah.
When we're bringing artists together and we're paying people what we can, but it's not a lot. We're like, we understand your mental health comes first. You know, if you've made a commitment to a show and the day you wake up and you're like, I cannot, we'll make it happen. So I think what people can bring to a space, into a digital room, I think that I'm more focused on that, like from the producing end and like making sure we still have a product to put on Facebook Wednesday through Saturday while still taking into account like people's mental spaces and where they're at.
And we've had that happen a couple of times, and it's been super okay. We've had actors drop out the morning of, and we've found other people to do it. And sometimes people are still on book, but like that happens in live theater sometimes, right? You have someone go on stage with a book.
I kind of am fascinated by the proposal that, and not just the one that you've made just here, Darnell, but like conversations that I've seen in various social media platforms about how much this like isn't it because of things like that, right? And I guess I'm really curious about artists who really think that everything they're putting out is creating a show where audience members are fully engaged from start to finish and are not off in their brain somewhere else, or you know what I mean, or looking at design the whole time, right? Like I think that theater and art is so cool. I think that it all unlocked for me when I was like 16 and somebody really just said to me like, oh, it's whatever you think it is, like that's what art is. You know what I mean? Like that your response to it is part of the conversation with the work, right? And so I really embrace the idea that you can do a show and if some person, all they get out of it is watching the changes, because that's like the thing that they tuned into and the plot wasn't for them, that's still valuable art. And so I think any relationship that an audience member has with your art is like valuable and serves it. So yeah, so I would echo that, like, it is great because there's no distraction. You know, something that we have looked at in this new tech space is what does it mean to start playing with a world where the audience and actors like live in the same digital space. We have not done that at this point because it creates, you know, different hurdles and whatnot. But I think that that's like one of the things that's missing from digital theater to live theater, you know, that we could potentially replicate or, you know, or Band-Aid for now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I can't tell you the last time I saw a play and just literally like was like entirely engrossed the entire time, you know, and it didn't at some point go off into my own little, you know.
Even if going off into your own head is like, oh, who is this actor I really enjoy?
Oh, sure, right. Or like, how would I have done this if it was my show? Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, definitely. If you're on the production side of theater at all in any capacity, I feel like you're always in the theater thinking about everything else. Like I remember telling someone for the longest time that when I walk in, I was a stage manager all through high school and in college. So I walk in immediately looking up. I want to know how many lights can I see? How much how much of off stage can I make out, because I know what I'm looking for. And I'm not looking at that as like criticism. I'm just curious. Like my whole podcast breaks the fourth wall. So, I want to see if I can find these broken elements. But often what I find, to what you were saying, Shamus, is quite a bit when I'm sitting in the theater, I'm getting ideas and I'm like, damn it. I take all my notes in notes on my phone, and I'm not about to pull out my phone right now to jot down this note that just, I got an idea from the elements of this scene. So in my head, I might be running a phrase, through my mind so I can try to process it. So when there is an opportunity to take a break, I can write that down. But I'm still very much in it. And I feel like maybe it is because I produce podcasts that I listen to podcasts all day, and even when I'm doing other work. And the key things that need to the key things that my brain needs to process, I sort of my ears sort of prick up at that time, and then I take in those elements. And I think when people walk away from a piece of theater, the parts that they remember, the parts that they end up telling other people about, are the parts where they were listening intently. It was the piece where they actually took away from the experience. So I think it's good. I like that these are bite-sized bits of theater, because there's a lot of evidence and sort of guidance that says that there should be lots of breaks in between everything that we do throughout the day. Like there are people who just work 5 hours straight before they can get a 15-minute break, or before they can get their lunch break. And it's not really healthy for you to continuously mainline one thing at a time. Like you do have to give yourself some time so that you can process what you just worked on or experienced, and then jump back in with that sort of baked in a way.
Well, we love breaks. We take lots of breaks.
So how long does the festival plan to run?
End of the month.
End of the month?
We're taking it through the end of the month, and then that's what we're doing. We're taking it through the end of the month. That's what we got.
Yes, and
we literally just had this talk.
Maybe more.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of questions. I think it's been really cool to experiment in this form, and to see what other people with 3 hours of time and the tech that we have available in this moment, to see what their proposals are. But I think that, for all of us as individual artists, we've kind of had our time with this in its current form. So, and we're happy to finish this out, but it has its limitations, right? And those things that, people are feeling and saying are things that we're feeling inside of it too. So I think that we're excited that we helped people play, and experiment in this form, and curious about kind of what the next things could be, without having any sense of what they are ourselves or what we plan to do about them.
Yeah. Do you see a future where something like a Going Viral festival becomes a companion to traditional theater season, or a traditional theater offering from an organization?
I hope so. I think that, something that we don't like to talk about a lot, but I will give a shout out to my friend Danny Rose right now, who's a major accessibility advocate in Philadelphia.
I saw that wonderful piece she just put out.
Oh, did you? I literally didn't even see. I'll have to look. But I think that digital space does create accessibility in a way that, there's material and shows that we were like, oh no, we could never get that to those people who can't get into our old building. And we've proven that we can. And so I think that there's a lot of conversations that need to happen with institutions, you know, as far as like, what is it? Okay, great. So it turns out when you were really desperate to have something, you could do this. So how about all the times we've been saying we haven't? And I think it's also, you know, during this conversation, I've been thinking a lot about the fact that while we have created this collective for this time, we are not an institution. We have no bank account. You know what I mean? That is our thing, you know? And so the conversations are just so different for like scrappy artists that are like, we're doing this thing versus trying to have to maintain a sense of season or subscribership or like a validity in this time when you might have to go dark for a year, you know? Yeah, I'm sorry, I kind of like lost myself in the thought there, but I think that's something that I've been thinking a lot about.
Yeah.
I also, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I also think, you know, now 7 weeks into, you know, quarantine, what I'm starting to see a lot of is art that is adapted specifically for the medium that we're using. Like, I feel like theater and creative offerings in the beginning of quarantine were like, this was intended to be in a different format, but now it has to be on a Zoom screen, so I'm going to put it on a Zoom screen. And now we're getting to the point where people have been sitting in this world long enough that we're creating like a whole new medium of art. So I'm looking forward to seeing like the companion pieces that you're talking about on this medium that we have being in that vein. And I think we're just getting started on what that exploration looks like. So I don't really know what the final product will be, but that's really exciting to me as an artist.
Yeah. I was referencing earlier the live events that the major broadcasting networks have been doing with traditional musicals and giving them this live component where they're actually working on a sound stage. They've got tons of cameras moving around and creating an atmosphere. It is different because, you know, traditionally we're used to experiencing a musical on a proscenium stage, and but this production studio has an entire lot that they can use to tell this story, and it is a different way of presenting the piece. And I think, you know, when you think about the rest of the cultural community, a museum is constantly thinking of ways to present its collection. The collection never changes. It's how they present it that changes all the time. So if you have a relic that is thousands of years old, you can't really change it, but the way you present it is different. So I think it'll be the same thing. And we have done this before, and we have done this fairly recently. It almost seems like every 10 years, the creative community has to sort of adjust to some new normal. Like when the economy fell out in 2008, 2009, we had to rethink how many people we were going to put on stage if we could afford it. Like, you know, unfortunately, at the same time, a lot of our black box spaces were closing, and it was probably the ideal time for them to be open, because we were looking at more intimate pieces of theater because of the expense of having a full-on production. So I think it'd be really great to see companies create some sort of virtual component, because this may not be the same audience that was sitting in your theater that buys opening night tickets. This might be the audience that, you know, said they heard about your piece and was really excited about it and was telling all their friends, but couldn't find a way to get over there to support your work. So now they can, because, you know, they mainline YouTube videos. So watching a live event online is much easier, much more accessible for them. And then when you think about how they're experiencing this, not everyone is sitting in front of a large computer screen. They might be looking at this on their cell phone, you know, or tablet. And then that opens this up to a totally different audience that is like, I didn't really think about it like this. You know, this is now something that I can add to my list of things I can consume and kind of take away some meaningful thoughts from. So I am actually pretty excited to see what comes out of this sort of the becomings of this virtual theater movement. See what happens.
Absolutely.
So when you're not organizing the festival, how are you making use of your time? What are you doing?
I'll go first. Paige and Eleanor know this because I talk about it when we're at work. I have invested a lot of my time in my Animal Crossing island called the Island.
Me too.
I spent my morning, I literally getting on this interview interrupted my desperate search for Renee, the sassy horse, because I want her to come move into the woodland area. Yeah, so like I've been finding my like escapism has been largely in like digital entertainment, right? And storytelling. Video games have always been something that I've been passionate about. I think if there was a career I'd ever pursued that wasn't theater, it would have been in video games. And so I've been like really curious about examining like what it is that like the buy-in there and why it's so great, you know. So like Animal Crossing is this major thing right now for many reasons, right? And the quarantine scenario has certainly enhanced it, but I think it kind of boils down to this idea of having a set being given a set of parameters that I get to go work on by myself at my house, and then I get to share the results with other people. And so I think that's kind of like, I'm curious how we can be doing that in theater. And how we can translate other principles of like social interaction in gaming. And like, I'm also super personally, like in my pursuit of it all, like curious about like just like breaking down what we consider theater, right? And like I'm not super worried about how quickly we revert back to what it was, because I think what it was failing in a lot of ways. And I'm much more interested in like what individual artists are doing to push, you know, to that next step, kind of like you spoke to. But for my like free time, mostly Animal Crossing. Also played the Final Fantasy VII remake in like 3 days. That was great. About to start Control, and I just got Civilization 6 for my Switch for when I'm tired of the animals, which is never.
Yes, I know exactly how you feel. I still get up the same time I would have if I had to be somewhere at 9. Only it's at 8, and I tune into my island. It's called Logan. And it's funny where I can sit there and be like, you know what, I actually have to go. I have 10 bags of Cosmos I have to plant today. And I just actually just built a theater on my island, which I thought was fun. I was like, I can't believe how many resources they have in this game, and the community that it creates as well. So yeah, that is something I can definitely relate to.
I mean, my friend had a birthday party in it, you know, and we all just brought our little amiibo people, you know what I mean, our little Switch characters over, and we all ran around their island, and it was just like a time of shouting and revelry, and it was the closest thing we had. So, you know, saving lives.
That's fun. They have to create a component that allows us. Well, I guess there is a way. I mean, when you think about it, YouTubers and sort of online gamers like who already share this experience with other people, like on platforms like Twitch, they have already created this sort of way to virtually connect with so many people. So I think there are a bunch of definite lessons that we could maybe take from that community to move into a virtual theater component. Eleanor, what about you?
My roommate and I have been doing P90X workouts. So I'm gonna get buff.
Good old standby.
I've been doing a lot of cooking. I've been doing a lot of this because I'm the one who I tend to have to sit in the rehearsals because somebody has to keep the Zooms open. So I've been on this a long time, a lot of time. I got a bird Airbnb app on my phone, so now I take care of some birds. It's like Animal Crossing, but much easier and not at all like that at all. I'm learning ukulele. I'm watching a lot of TV. I'm watching The Sopranos for the first time. It's a really good show, guys. I didn't expect it to actually be that good. I sort of thought it was one of those like boys shows where like all of the men decided that this was quality TV and therefore we as a society determined it was. But like, no, it's actually good.
Yeah.
So that's exciting.
And Edie's like the best part.
Hmm?
Edie Falco's like the best part.
She's great.
She got like 20 or not 20s. Oh gosh. Whoop.
Emmys. Yes. Paige?
So in this vein of like, we're offering bite-sized theater. I've been doing a lot of like bite-sized things in my own life. Like I've noticed my personal attention span is more compressed. So I've been doing things that can be achieved a little bit faster in a day. Like I have scheduled, writing calls with various people. I've started embroidering, which has been a lot of fun. And I have bought way too much stuff on Amazon for like an embroidery skill set that I do not have, but like aspiring to.
No, that's not true. Paige is very good at embroidering, especially considering how little time she has spent on it. She shows us some of her things in rehearsals and like she is good.
Yeah, I haven't picked up a skill because I won't be able to, and so it'll just be embarrassing when I go like, "Oh yeah, I spent the last 3 months still being terrible at guitar."
But yeah, I mean, mostly because I happen to be like isolated alone. Like I'm living. I have my cat. It's me and my cat. So I've been spending a lot of time like figuring out what does human connection look like in this kind of environment in which I don't have any roommates or anything like that. So I'm trying to like reconnect with people as much as possible and stay engaged in a way that doesn't feel too draining, because after a while, like video chat is like sort of human connection, but like also it's like a little bit hollow, at least for me, I found if I do it too much in a day or in a week.
Yeah. I've been loving the idea of the virtual happy hour. There have been a lot of people who've been invited me to a virtual happy hour where it's just a hang for a few minutes, and there are some platforms that have more resources than others in terms of like how we engage with each other in those spaces. And I've been kind of blown away at some of these capabilities that in most cases were always there. They were just not things I thought I would ever give myself time to, experience, thinking that I had something else to do or, feeling, I guess maybe feeling in a way that I had something better to do. But that has been good because, the people who can't just easily drive to your house, or you can't just easily hop on a train and get to where they are, it is a nice way to continue to engage with people, because I think we pulled away from talking on the phone. Like it's really hard to have a long conversation on the phone now without really having some sort of visual. My best friends are my best friends, but we get on the phone and it's like, yeah, huh? Okay, all right. So we're gonna go? All right, cool. Bye. We don't really spend like, so what are you doing? What's the time? Because
that's so interesting. I found the phone to be such like a respite now. I'm like, if someone's like, hey, do you want to Zoom? I'm like, do we need to see each other? Because I would rather be able to like walk around my house and do something, right? Because we become tethered, right? If it's on your computer, like right now, anything even like small that I want to do, I have to very clearly be like, I'm walking away from you now, and then be shouting from upstairs. You know what I mean? As my like dogs are making their noises or whatever.
Yeah.
And then also I think like the performance of engagement is like a very weird thing now, right? Like the expectation that I will sit here staring at like this middle part of my computer to show you that I'm listening to you while my thing is muted because actually I'm like watching a murder documentary over here. So I think it's funny, right? And I think that what we're really lucky, or at least I have felt very lucky, like was said earlier, right? That sometimes people just like can't do it, or they're having their own limitations for things, is that we get to have that like understanding and flexibility. So when people come in and like, cool, I like learned the first 5 pages and then it wouldn't stick. We go, of course not. The world is ending. Like what, you know what I mean? We get to say that, as opposed to, I think a lot of settings right now, people are being asked to pretend it's not happening at work, or this is fine. It's all fine. This is just, no, of course, you're still happy. You still get 50 grand a year to type at your desk, but now it's at home. You're lucky. This is better. You're happier now, is like a lot of the rhetoric I'm seeing, unfortunately, from a lot of people that work for, major conglomerate type
Yeah.
And in my own experience, having done some like day jobbing things, I don't think that the rhetoric from, corporatized businesses that need to continue to make money during this is accurate to the human experience. And I'm glad that we get to be.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That thing that Shamus said. That.
I don't know.
Yes.
It's so hard, right? It's like, now, can we not be honest now? If now is not the time, when do we get to start being honest with each other? Really, Like we've had a couple of things in the last couple of days. It was like everyone's just like a little tired, and we're all just on top of each other a little bit too much. And it's just like, cool. And now like here's really where we're all at. Great, cool, And it's just I think we were doing ourselves a disservice in pretending that things were more fine than they are, because that's how we're used to working in collaborative spaces, So I don't know. I found that to be like a beautiful
Super
Band-Aid ripoff of like, great, now we're all being honest. We're talking about it, But it's hard. It's hard for me to do too. I'm like, very deep in my feelings, just like bubbling all the time.
I think it's a thing that we learn very clearly when we're talking about like romantic relationships. It's like communication is really important. And then some people do that for their romantic relationships and some people don't. And overwhelmingly, we're not taught that for any other kind of relationship. Nobody's ever like, it's really important to communicate with your friends and colleagues. Nobody does that. They're like, well, if you don't talk to your girlfriend, then she's not going to know. But nobody's ever like, but did you tell your friend that you were upset? Are you having that conversation? Did you explain to your boss why like this trauma is making it hard for you to work as quickly as normal? Well, we're not allowed to do that.
And I also feel like one of the, I don't know if saying a gift, a silver lining of quarantine, I don't want to sound callous about it, is that like right now we're all creating, we're all on an even keel. Like there is no hierarchy. Like everyone in our rehearsal rooms, we're like, great, we are an artist who has been brought here. Like we have different titles, but like we just want to make something, and maybe we get a couple bucks out of it, but it has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with the internal motor to create. And I think that like even starting place makes it a little bit easier for those transparent conversations to happen. And like hopefully that can be a model once the world opens up again. Like we've all kind of like flexed those muscles a little bit, that it can be a part of the practice moving forward when some of those hierarchies and structures come back into place.
And I think something I've been thinking a lot of, oh, sorry, go ahead, Al.
No, you go ahead.
Echoing that, something that it's super cool. I work a lot with students, right? Just in my work with like college students and like, late teens. And so being able to bring, young performers and young playwrights and artists into these rooms and have them be like totally validated and treated like an adult has been like so wonderful, to the point that like, I really hope we come out of this and stop apprenticeship garbage. Like I hope that we stop putting, a 22-year-old into a play and paying them nothing because they're gaining so much from the artists around them. Cause I think they are, right? I think that's real, but the same is true of what we gain from them. And especially, oh my God, with technology and like this Animal Crossing thing, same thing, right? I literally got schooled by this 22-year-old young female identifying person on Facebook today. And she was like, oh, you're so silly. Here are all the things that you should be doing. Boo, 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 and go to this thing and click this link and do that and this thing. And it blew my mind. And I was like, yes, now more than ever, we need to be looking at like, okay, great. So the world is falling. Our form is dying. Young people, what is it? What are we doing? You know what I mean? We're stuck a little bit. We've been doing it for so long. And the rhetoric from some people in our industry who have been doing it at a place of certain level of like financial security or privilege is also that. They're like, well, if we can't do it that way, it's dead. Nothing can ever happen again. And I find that ridiculous. And like, okay, cool, dinosaurs, get out then. Time for the form to move on without you. No, really and truly. Like, if you're not ready to adapt and evolve in this form, it's not the form for you. It's about that, right?
And I think that's not to say that like, sorry.
Oh, it's just saying a lot of gatekeepers maintaining the status quo are they're the ones hardest hit right now. They're the ones who are having a hard time adjusting to this. Go ahead, Eleanor.
I don't think that that's to say that those people don't get to mourn. Like this is a really traumatic time, and like I also want to mourn like that we don't have an audience physically present who I can feed off of. I love my favorite thing about stage managing live, like in-person theater is when I hit house to half and the audience goes from, that's my favorite thing. I think it's the most magical moment in the world, and that's gone. Like that doesn't exist in this form. And that's really sad. And we all get to mourn like those things that we miss. Like, I don't think any of us want to be saying like, well, if you can't deal with it, then forget you. Like, but also we have to be able to mourn and move forward. Like, there are the stages of grief and we have to get through them. We can't just sit forever.
I love those elements of stage management, just like what you said for House to Have. Reminded me when I was in high school, I was the head drum major, and I would call for horns up, and would do my uh, whatever the whatever the whatever the pose was to signal to the band that we were ready to go. It was like this, it was kind of a control thing, but it was a sort of like we all know what's about to happen. And it was sort of this language that we all knew about. And those are the things I do kind of miss. I do have these fun lights that you can control with your voice in my house. And I use a lot of theater commands for them, like House to Have, and so on. So just so I don't pull myself too far away from everything. If and we'll wrap it up here. If you could be anywhere else now, where would you be and why?
Well, that depends. Is it open?
It's open, and it's not in light of everything that's going on. It's just if you could be anywhere other than Tuesday 1:55 p.m.
I don't know if I totally understand the prompt, but I think my first impulse, because of like the amount of mourning that people had to go through, I don't know. I guess it's really tricky, right? Because it's all a pretend thing, right? If I could go back in time one time, I think that there's probably something more significant that I probably would have done. But in this moment, I would love to think that if I had a shot, I would go back 6 months and just let people know, like, spring isn't happening. Don't get excited about your shows. Like, the amount of people, you know what I mean? Like, artists that were about to go on Broadway for the first time, you know what I mean? And like, we're changing their life in order to prepare for something that's not happening is really, I think, to me, deeply devastating. It's hard for everyone, but like, there's just, I had individual friends, like, we all had a friend who was an up and coming director who was like finally doing their big show that everyone's like super excited about, with a playwright that everyone was super excited about. And like, it was going to be this big thing. And they got pulled right, as they went to Tech 2. And so I wish I could have been like, hey, everybody, just get it done by January. And then it might, I don't know. Or like maybe to stop the virus wherever it started, but I can't do that. So I don't know about that.
Yeah. Anyone else want to chime in?
This is way less humanitarian than Shamus's. I want to fix the musical so bad, and I'm so scared that it's going to be one of those shows that like can't stay open once the virus is over, and that I'm never going to be able to see it. And I just wanted to see Six so badly, guys. I'm so excited about a story that doesn't pit Henry VIII's wives against each other, that lets them be friends. I'm so excited for that, and I want it. That's all.
I know for me, where I'm at right now, I would just love to be with my friends and family in Texas. I just miss them a lot.
It's great. I was definitely looking forward to Caroline or Change in New York. It got canceled, and we got a notification saying it was canceled. We're going to hold. We can hold your ticket fees, or you can ask for a refund. And I said, I'm going to hold them because I had planned on going. And then ultimately they refunded them. So I was like, oh, this is official now. And I felt really bad because I was pretty content with letting them have it. But they had to do what they had to do. And it was just sad. I mean, a lot of the things I wanted to do, like big plans, were a little further down. Like I was planning to go to Edinburgh again this year for the festival, and once I heard that was canceled, I said, pretty much, I think everything from here to Edinburgh Festival Fringe is going to be canceled, because there's no way that they would cancel such a large event this far out, and everything else have an opportunity to still be running. So I was just like, okay, let's figure out how to adjust to this. But yeah, so it's Going Viral Festival. Tell us how to engage with this festival throughout the end of the month.
Yeah, you just go directly to our Facebook page, which is Going Viral Festival, and all of our shows stream directly to there. We also have an Instagram page, which I believe is also Going Viral Festival, and we do IGTV for that, so it doesn't stream live there, but we do put the recordings of our shows right onto there. So you can see them on either place, whatever's more convenient to you.
Great. And does it allow you to, are you able to archive all of this content?
Oh, they're all there. You can see the entire season if you're late to the party, friends. Come on down, donate on down, right? We also have a Venmo at Mal-Adjusted, another great way to engage with us.
Great.
And all that money goes directly to the artists. We split it, the donations every week by the participating artists to give people a little thank you. You know, it's also been really interesting and cool. I don't know, the moments of getting to like see positivity in the community have been like super, like letting me move forward sometimes, you know? And so like the amount of people are like, oh, cool. Actually, I have a day job. I'm working 60 hours a week, but I just need something artistic to do for like a minute, right? To like remember that I'm a full human being and not just an at-home servant to you know, this corporate overlord that's somewhere else now. I don't even get to like see people or like occasionally get a free, like, I don't know, toffee muffin or something. And so a lot of people have like donated the money back in and been like, cool, I don't need to get money from this. Give that to the people that are like really in between things. So that's been like really nice to see too. How else can we engage? Are there other ways?
I think we have those 3 things.
Great.
So it's Facebook, Going Viral Festival, Instagram at Going Viral Festival, and Venmo, Mal-Adjusted. Great.
Well, Eleanor, Paige, Shamus, I want to thank you all for taking the time to come chat with me. I've been sitting back for a couple of months just trying to figure out, you know, just like everyone else. And I'm so glad I was able to have this conversation with you. It's the Going Viral Festival. It's available on Facebook and Instagram, and we'll have a Venmo link when we post this episode. So even though we chatted visually, this will be an audible presentation as usual. But I want to thank you all for taking the time to chat with me. This was truly a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having us.
For having us.
All right. And keep you posted with everything else you have. You know, whatever happens beyond Going Viral. I think these are some of the things that are going to be inspiring to many people who might be standing still right now thinking like, I don't know how to move forward, or what can I do that is, you know, that allows me to kind of just take advantage of this moment. And like you said earlier, you mentioned, Paige, there are some silver linings to this, and there are a lot of silver linings to a situation like this. And it's weird, like we won't be able to see them clearly until we're looking at them in the rearview mirror. But I think if we can kind of tap into those things, I think it would be, we'll all get through this because we are all in this together, as they keep saying. All right. So thank you all so much for chatting with me, and enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.
You too. Thank you.
Head on over to our website at www.broadstreetreview.com and click Get Involved at the top. While you're there, help keep us running and click Contribute to find out how. Connect with us on social media, on Facebook and Twitter at Broad Street Review. Thank you for helping to keep the conversation going.